Hi, and welcome to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. And Michael will be with us here momentarily. it's, I changed the title in the picture, but it didn't change. It looks like I'm still Dr. Tim on the first hour, but that's okay. We will get these things worked out eventually. We are going to change the picture. I actually created one that has all of our pictures on it, and so we'll use it, and then we won't have to change it. So, on just bring you up to speed on the website, whyagain.org. I have gone through, I've got like 3 more to do, but I've gone through all the special shows that we did. So that if you click on Start Here, and then there's one that says MP3 of special shows, I have gone through and changed all the links from being Blog Talk links to being YouTube links, created YouTube MP4s, and so those will be out there, so we won't have to worry about, where do I find them? Of course, all you have to do if you go to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by either on our website, up at the top, there's the little link that'll take you straight to our YouTube channel, or you can type in youtube.com/Michael Ryce, and it probably pop up before you do the rest, _ why again. And we are uploading our shows as the gentlemen who are doing the transcriptions get them completed and sent to me. I'm about a month behind on that as well. So we've got all of 2011, 2012, and then we skip up to so January to April of 2023, and then all of 2024. Those have been turned into YouTube videos. So if you go to our YouTube channel, one of the things that you can do is click on playlists. It gives you the option of home or videos or shorts or playlists. And if you click on playlists, then I'm putting them out there by year and month. So it might be like 2012 June, and there's 21 videos from that month, that year. Then there's one that says specials or special shows, and there's 105 videos out there right now. I've got 3 more to add up, but all of the special shows are out there in one place. So that's an easier way to find them. Now on our website, it will still have, how we've got it now with the month and the day, the years, how it's divided out. And we've got the descriptions, which we're filling in those as we go as well. Because these gentlemen, as they're converting them, they're doing the transcripts. And so we're putting more information where, as before, some of the years, the days were blank where I didn't keep notes or whatever. This was in the early years. And so those are getting filled in as we go along as well. And so if you go to, say that you knew that there was a show last week, so you can go to our website and click on 2025 in January and go to last week. All the descriptions, the transcript or the summary of the transcript is out there. You can do a search by word or whatever. Find the show that you're wanting to listen to. Now, what I'm doing now too is within the notes, I'm putting the YouTube link so you can click and go directly there. Or we have on our website, it's the Podetize player for the archives. And you can click on that link and it has all of the links that have been uploaded to Podetize. Now, some of the older ones have not been put up there yet. They're still working on getting that done before the 31st of January. But our very early shows, like in 2011, 2012, 2013, they were on another person's broadcast channel. So it was like Blog Talk Radio, and then / Enlightened Masters or Earth Angels Radio / Mindshifters Radio. So that the feed that Blog Talk gave him for transferring all of our shows over to Podetize didn't pick up those older ones. And so he's still working on that. He's got a couple more weeks to get that done and rescue all of our archives. We do have them on an external hard drive. And like I said, we've uploaded those from the external hard drive to a Dropbox. And that's where the gentlemen who are working on the transcriptions and the conversions, they're pulling them from that Dropbox. So everything is saved. It's just that for a time until we get through all of this, you may not be able to access them immediately. And, we're working on that. So
They're
be
coming.
patient. And thank you very much. And I'm turning it over to Michael.
Hey, thank you, dear heart, and welcome everybody. Delighted that we get to play again. Awesome first century Aramaic tools and how to use them and what to expect as you use them. Oftentimes people have this expectation that, oh, well, I'm now doing healing work, therefore my life should be totally comfortable and easy, and I should have no problems whatsoever. And unfortunately, that is not the way it works. And so I want to talk today a little bit about the healing process, unless somebody out there in listener land has a thought for us. And if you do, and you're on the app, and you have to be on the app in order to speak to us. You know, when you get a notice, if you hit that link, it'll take you to a web page, but the web page is not the app. So you open the Nedl app, click on Mind Shifters Radio, and you're listening. And then about halfway down the page, you'll see a word that says call. You hit that call, and then you have to go down to the bottom of the page and hit once again. That will let me know that you have a question or a thought or a comment for us, and we'll be able to have a conversation. So we'll keep it easy. We'll keep it simple. If you have something to share, especially my app just skipped a beat there. Pardon me. Especially if you're new to the show, then we invite you to ask any questions as we go along. We want this understanding to be as complete as possible. And the wonder of questions is that questions open the space. You know, there's an interesting story that is told about Albert Einstein. And someone asked him, if you were given an hour to solve a problem where you would be dead, what would you do? And Einstein answered, I'd spend 55 minutes asking questions and then I'd solve the problem. So you've developed a unique question perhaps in your mind, in your life about this work. And maybe you think that question's obvious to me and I've already asked it, but there's a good chance that I haven't. You know, I can only ask what's in my brain cells. And when you bring a new question into the show, and you can write it in the comments, but when you bring a new question into the show, you can open a whole new line of questioning, a whole new piece of the puzzle for everybody, including me. So please, if you have any questions, ask them now. If you have to comment, hit call, and let's have a conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into what happens when you start to do this work. And again, it's not always Dr. Feelgood to do your healing work. Many people get very excited about, oh, I can live this wonderful life as the presence of love. Okay, I'm going to go for it. Yes, that's true. And in order to get there, you're going to have to face, deal with, and remove, that is, forgive, everything unlike that wonderful life that you want to have. You know, people say, oh, you know, I just want to have a conflict-free relationship with this person. Well, are you a conflict-free being? No. Then I guarantee you, you're not going to have a conflict-free relationship with this person. But if you're willing to face, and unfortunately, many people become excited about this work and the possibility of it, but when they get into what can sometimes be a slog, especially, you know, if you're not really up to being willing to embracing what you've been hiding from yourself, it can become a challenge to feel, to deal with. You know, I think back over the last, geez, I've probably been seeing 50 years for 5 years now, so it's more like 55 or so years that I've been doing this work. And I look at the number and the intensity sometimes of the healing crisis, and it can get pretty deep. You know, when I was a kid, I was supposed to die the first night after my birth from lung problems. The doctors predicted I would not make it through the night. I remember a healing crisis I had. I actually went out west, went out to Arizona, and we were working with a group out there, and some people had rented a house, and they were sponsoring the workshop that I was going to present at, and asked me if I would like to stay with them. So I did that. And I ended up in such a deep lung healing crisis that they actually thought that they should be calling an ambulance because I was dying. I wasn't dying, but my lungs were going through one of the deepest cleanses I've ever had. Healing is not Dr. Feelgood. So it takes understanding. You want to have the brain cells for what's really going on. And, you know, symptoms, symptoms, symptoms. You know, most people are terrified of symptoms because they don't know what symptoms are. They've been lied to. They've been told that symptoms mean they have a disease. And of course, if they have a disease, their body lacks aspirin or some other drug. Now, think about it logically. If you have a headache, do you think it really means that your body lacks aspirin? And do you think that aspirin is really a solution to your headache? I mean, that's about as silly as it gets on its face. It's that simple a question. Yes, you can use something like acetylsalicylic acid. Comes from the bark of a white willow tree. It's been a naturopathic remedy for eons. You can use that, and it will anesthetize you against the pain of the headache. In other words, it will seem like the headache goes away. The headache does not go away. Awareness of the pain of the headache goes away. Now, there can be a place for taking away the awareness of pain. You know I've got something going on. I'm working through whatever it is. I don't need to lay here and suffer when I have this aspirin as a possibility for taking away the pain. But if I do the short circuit of, oh, well, I'll just start living on aspirin, then whatever it is that I'm not paying attention to in my life, whatever it is that I'm not doing or I am doing to cause this damage that's happening in my brain, which a headache is just a signal that there's some damage being done. If I just take away the symptoms, then I'm probably going to keep doing what I've always done, and therefore move into deeper and deeper states of degeneration. Doing that is called aging. It's natural, they tell us. Everybody does it. No, it's not natural. And it has nothing to do with time. Back about 40 years ago, I went to a medical conference. There was a group from called the DeCourcy Clinic in Cincinnati. There was a presenter from that clinic. And the words were burned into my brain. I heard them once. Time is not toxic. Time has no effect on human tissue under any conditions. It is the belief in the effect of time by those who subscribe to such a belief that acts as a poison. Now, if we engage in toxic energies, and interestingly, we can tie this back into the study of theology very powerfully, or at least what people call theology. Generally speaking, it's not really theology, but we can tie back into it. And they had a word for engaging in toxic energy. The word actually is an archery term. If you were on the archery range and you fired at the target and you missed the bullseye, the scorekeeper would yell, sin, which would simply mean you're off the mark. That's all it means. If you're doing something to cause yourself a headache, you are committing a sin. Now, forget the whole Greek connotation of your evil and all the stuff that goes with. Actually, the word evil is another word that ties to the word sin. It's an archery term. When you fire at the target, and if you miss the target altogether, the scorekeeper would yell, evil, like you're way off the mark. That's all it means. When they said the wages of sin is death in the ancient teachings, that wasn't some kind of theological threat. God's going to get you for your sins. They were just telling you how the energy system works. If you put a toxic energy into the system, sin, then you're going to get a result. And that result is going to be deterioration of the tissue in which the toxic energy exists. Thus, the tissue in which your symptoms are happening. So what are symptoms? Symptoms are simply the expression of a certain quality of energy held in the human system. So let's say someone just bursts out in full, delightful, joyful laughter. What is that? That's a symptom. That's a symptom that someone's connected to a state of being that includes joy. If something happens and one goes into tears and pain and trauma, that's a symptom. That means that that situation has resonated something in tissue that doesn't belong there, has resonated sin. So again, when they said the wages of sin is death, it just means that if you put enough toxic energy into the system, symptomatic energy, and you ignore those symptoms and you drug yourself. Now, we are probably the most drugged society or civilization in all of history. Most everybody has in their homes a cabinet with this special fluid in it, a celebratory fluid that they save just for their favorite people, their best friends, their favorite neighbors, and they break that stuff out and give it to them when they want to have a good time. It's called alcohol, if you're not familiar with that substance. And the person I post on I don't know whether we've got this on the website or not, sweetie, the article on alcohol. But anyway, I post it on Facebook every once in a while about the aliens who come to Earth and hear about this celebratory substance, but they stand back and watch as they're served at a party where people are supposed to be having a good time, and they watch people starting to slur their words and stumble around and go into rage and fear and fight, and they're like, what's wrong with this picture? But there's an advertising media out there that convinces you and I, and I was brought up with this. I thought alcohol was just a part of life. It's no big deal. It's such a fraud. It's such a lie. Anyone who actually understands what alcohol is doing to the human body would never allow one scintilla of it to cross their lips in a million years. But it's a great anesthetic. Remember the popular song that goes along with alcohol? Feeling no pain? And it's involved in, I can't even start to quote the statistics. The murders, the rapes, the child abuse, the homes destroyed, the jobs lost, the cost. It's just, and it's linked directly to cancer. It's linked directly to heart attacks. The list just goes on and on. And people save it for their favorite people. Think about it. And most of us have never thought about things like that. Our culture, everywhere you turn, you'll notice that, and it's interesting because a certain member of Congress, actually a very high level member of Congress who was very anti-pot for many years, fought it, now stands on the precipice of making millions and millions of dollars as one of the number one promoters lobbying for pot to become legal in every state. Hey, sell it to anybody that you want. What's it do? Oh, I don't have to deal with my life if I am on pot. I can feel good. Guess what? You're designed to feel good. The only reason you don't feel good is because of your sin. and not in a religious sense, but in the sense of every energy you put in your structure that doesn't belong in your structure, that's off the mark, begins the deterioration of your structure. Now, if you've lived in, and we've got sugar is probably right up there, or not probably, it is right up there with alcohol. Right next to alcohol is sugar, and yet you can hardly go into a restaurant or a so-called food store and find something that doesn't have that white toxic poison in it. Foods that are denatured, you take a wheat berry and it's got all these nutrients in it, selenium and calcium and vitamin A. Oh man, a lot of stuff. What did the millers, and I'm not talking about a family called the Millers, I'm talking about the people who milled grains, discover? Oh, when we're milling that, if we separate out all of those nutrients that create color, then we can come up with this white poison called white flour. Go into a restaurant in your town and see, unless they're a specialty restaurant, see if you can find a sandwich that isn't made with this white poison. It's a drug. It's an anesthetic. If people live their whole lives anesthetizing themselves against their symptoms, and then they actually start to change their mental habits, change their physical habits, change their thought habits, and start to become responsible for their emotional tone, then symptoms that perhaps they have not felt in years, symptoms that perhaps have not been felt in the family system for generations, all of a sudden show up. People wonder why, why was this child, mentally disabled? Take a look back through the family system. You're going to find there's an energy that doesn't belong. And in the first century Aramaic language, there was a tool for removing every one of those energies. It was called forgiveness. And the Greeks shifted that tool out of the arena of removal of energetic patterns that don't belong within the system and turned it into a tool for a tool of blame and a tool for letting everybody else off the hook. Once you recognize and start to take responsibility, you start to throw out the things that inhibit you from feeling what's going on within you symptomatically. And you begin to move through those symptomatic energies. I assure you, your body has never lacked aspirin. So the solution to healing is really not all that popular because it's not Dr. Feelgood. There are very real symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, that must be worked through. And part of them is that they must be endured and dealt with. Remembering that forgiveness is not about letting others off the hook, but removal. That's the key tool to uncovering, addressing, and literally removing sin right down to an energetic level, right down to a genetic level. Willingness to embrace in love what one is moving through is the second best accelerator of the process. That along with breathing. There are 3 levels that are impacted when true healing occurs. And the symptoms of healing are identical to the symptoms of disease. When energetic patterns are moving into the system, there are certain symptoms. When energetic patterns are moving out of the system, those same symptoms occur. Willingness and breath are the keys to moving through those energetic patterns. On an emotional level, healing looks like any kind of negative feeling you've ever had in depression. On a mental level, it looks like any kind of negative thought you've ever had in confusion. On a physical level, it looks like any kind of physical symptom you've ever had, and low energy. So the objective is to move through the process. The objective is to own and forgive everything that never belonged within the system.